Some stories are buried deep, hidden in the shadows, waiting to be unearthed. Others arrive unexpectedly, a muddy paw print on a journey we never planned. Both are stories of loss, of resilience, of finding light in the darkest of places. They are stories of dogs who carried burdens and people who found their own burdens lifted in return. What you're about to see, it's a testament to the power of connection, the unspoken language of loyalty, and the miracles that happen when we open our hearts. These are the stories of Dusty and Rusty, and they'll change the way you look at second chances. Stay with us. They said she was unadoptable. Too old, too scared, too broken. They didn't see what I saw. A flicker, a tiny spark of something, hidden deep within the shadows. I knew. I just knew there was a story there. A story I had to uncover. And what I found changed everything. Stay with me. You won't believe what happened next. My name is Liam, and I volunteer at the local animal shelter. It's a tough job. You see a lot of sad stories, a lot of lost souls, but there was something about her. They called her Dusty, a 12-year-old terrier mix, her fur matted and dull, her eyes perpetually downcast. She'd been there for months, ignored by families looking for playful puppies. The first time I saw her, she wouldn't even look at me. She just trembled, her body a tight knot of fear. I sat outside her kennel for an hour, just talking softly, telling her about the sunny days and the squirrels chasing each other in the park. Nothing. No reaction. But I kept coming back. Every day. I'd bring her a small torn-up fleece blanket, the only thing she seemed to find a sliver of comfort in. I'd sit, read to her, sing softly off-key tunes. Slowly, painstakingly, she started to shift. A tiny twitch of an ear, a brief glance in my direction. One day, I brought her a small squeaky toy shaped like a squirrel. She flinched, then sniffed it cautiously. A low growl rumbled in her throat, not aggressive, but almost questioning. Then, a miracle. She nudged the toy with her nose, a tiny, hesitant push. That was the turning point. I started taking her for short walks in the shelter's small yard. She was terrified of the leash, of the open space, of the other dogs barking. But with each step, she gained a little confidence. I noticed a small faded scar on her muzzle, a jagged line that spoke of a rough past. I wondered about her story, the life she'd lived before she ended up here. One rainy afternoon, I was brushing her matted fur. As I gently worked on a particularly stubborn knot, I felt something hard beneath her skin. A small metal tag, almost completely corroded. I carefully pried it loose. It was a military dog tag. My heart pounded. This wasn't just any dog. This was a veteran. Dusty, it turned out, was once Valor, a combat support dog who served overseas. The tag had a service number, a name, Valor, and a faint inscription: loyalty, courage, sacrifice. I was stunned. I started researching, digging through old military records, connecting with veteran organizations. I found a picture of Valor, younger, stronger, standing proudly beside a young soldier. His name was Sergeant Michael Evans. He'd been killed in action. Dusty, or Valor, had lost her partner. The realization hit me like a wave. All her fear, her withdrawal, her broken spirit. It wasn't just old age or abuse. It was grief. Profound, devastating grief. She wasn't unadoptable. She was heartbroken. I started to treat her differently. Not as a scared shelter dog, but as a hero. I took her to veteran events where she was greeted with reverence and respect. I played recordings of Michael's voice, found online in old news interviews. She'd perk up, her ears twitching, a flicker of recognition in her eyes. One day, I took her to Michael's grave. It was a simple stone marker surrounded by flags. Dusty walked slowly, deliberately, her nose to the ground. She stopped at the grave, laid down, and let out a long, mournful sigh. It was a sound that broke my heart. Then, something extraordinary happened. A group of veterans who had heard about Valor came to pay their respects. They knelt beside her, their hands gently stroking her fur, their voices filled with gratitude. Dusty, for the first time, looked up at them, her eyes clear and bright. She was home. I adopted her, of course. We spent our days exploring parks, visiting veteran centers, and simply being together. She was still a quiet dog, but the fear was gone. In its place was a quiet dignity, a gentle strength. One evening, as the sun was setting, I sat with Dusty on the porch. She was curled up beside me, her head resting on my lap. I looked at her, at the faded scar on her muzzle, at the wise, amber eyes that had seen so much. And I understood. We weren't just rescuing her. She was rescuing me. She taught me about resilience, about the power of love, about the importance of honoring those who serve. They said she was unadoptable, but I knew, deep down, that there was a hero hidden within. And sometimes, the most broken hearts hold the most beautiful stories. Dusty's story is a reminder that everyone deserves a second chance, a chance to heal, a chance to love. And sometimes the greatest heroes wear fur and have four paws. If you believe in second chances, please share this story. You never know who you might inspire. I didn't want a dog. Not then. Not ever. My life was already a mess, and the last thing I needed was another responsibility. But then he showed up. A scruffy, stubborn mutt with eyes that saw right through me. He was a complication, a chaos generator, a lifeline. And he arrived just when I needed it most. You won't believe how this changed everything. My name is Alex, and my life was falling apart. I'd lost my job, my apartment, and honestly, a lot of my hope. I was living out of my car, drifting from place to place, trying to figure out what to do next. One rainy afternoon, I pulled into a deserted rest stop. I was exhausted, hungry, and utterly alone. That's when I saw him. A small, scruffy dog, soaked to the bone, shivering under a picnic table. He was a mess, matted fur, big, pleading eyes, and a tail that wagged tentatively, even though he was clearly terrified. I didn't want to get involved. I had enough problems of my own. But something about his eyes, the way he looked at me, made me hesitate. I tossed him a leftover sandwich, and he devoured it in seconds. He stayed close after that, following me as I walked around the rest stop. He was skittish, but he seemed to be drawn to me, like he knew I was just as lost as he was. I couldn't just leave him there. I couldn't, so I took him with me. I named him Rusty because of his reddish-brown fur, and we hit the road. At first, he was a nightmare. He chewed through my phone charger, peed on my car seat, and barked at every passing car. But he was also incredibly loyal. He never left my side, and he seemed to sense when I was feeling down. He'd nuzzle my hand or put his head on my lap, offering silent comfort. Living in my car with a dog was challenging. I had to find places that allowed pets, sneak him into motels, and scrounge for dog food. But Rusty gave me a purpose. He gave me something to care about, something to focus on besides my own problems. One day, I pulled into a small town, hoping to find a temporary job. I saw a sign for a local animal shelter, and I decided to stop in. Maybe they could help me find some resources. The shelter was run by a kind, older woman named Carol. When she saw Rusty, she immediately recognized him. He was a stray she'd been trying to catch for weeks. He was known for being wary and hard to approach. Carol was amazed that Rusty had bonded with me. She said he was a special dog with a lot of love to give. She offered me a temporary job at the shelter, helping with the animals. It wasn't much, but it was something. Working at the shelter changed everything. I was surrounded by animals in need, and I felt like I was finally doing something meaningful. Rusty was my constant companion, and he became a favorite with the volunteers and other dogs. I started to feel a sense of community again. I met other people who were struggling, but who were also determined to make a difference. I learned that I wasn't alone, that everyone has their own battles to fight. One evening, Carol told me that Rusty had a microchip. She'd scanned him when I brought him in, but hadn't told me because she knew he was safe with me. The microchip led to an owner, an elderly man who had lost his dog months ago. I was heartbroken. I'd grown so attached to Rusty, but I knew I had to do the right thing. I called the man and he was overjoyed. He came to the shelter the next day, and when Rusty saw him, his tail went wild. He jumped into the man's arms, licking his face, and the man burst into tears. It was a bittersweet moment. I was happy for Rusty, but I was also devastated to lose him. The man thanked me profusely and offered me a reward. I refused, but he insisted on giving me something. He gave me a small, worn-out photo of Rusty as a puppy. I left the shelter feeling empty, but also grateful. Rusty had given me so much. He'd given me a reason to keep going, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there's always hope. A few weeks later, I got a call from Carol. She told me that the man who had adopted Rusty had passed away. He had left a note asking for me to be contacted and for me to take Rusty again. Rusty and I were reunited. It felt like coming home. We were meant to be together. I got my life back on track. I found a stable job and an apartment that allowed pets. Rusty was by my side through it all. He was my best friend, my confidant, my lifeline. He was just a stray, but he taught me that sometimes the greatest gifts come in the most unexpected packages. He reminded me that even when you feel lost and alone, there's always someone or something waiting to guide you back home. And that sometimes the most broken hearts can find healing in the most unexpected places. If you've ever found strength in the love of an animal, please share this story. You never know who needs to hear it. If you loved Rusty's story, please give this video a like. It really helps us share stories like these and support our channel. And if you want to see more heartwarming animal tales and stories of hope and resilience, be sure to subscribe. We've got lots more to share. Thanks for watching.